Warning, this podcast contains violence, sexuality, gore, and other horrible and disturbing things. Listener discretion is advised. Also, the hosts of this venture are ignorant dipshits, so please do not take anything they say as fact. And enjoy the show.
Now, are you sitting comfortably? Good. Then we'll begin.
Today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be.
It is our basic human right to be fucked up.
A second plane now has crashed into the other tower of the World Trade Center.
Putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
The defendant shall be incarcerated for the rest of her natural life with no possibility of parole.
You are not machines. You are not cattle. You are men.
We were somewhere around Barstow, on the edge of the desert, when the drugs began to take hold.
Occultae Veritatis.
Welcome to Occultae Veritatis podcast. My name is Arthur, and I am joined today in studio by
Ood Gallifrey,
Sage Murray,
Richard Bigley,
and special guest
Ugly Horse,
Eugen Steinach. Born 1861, died 1944, was a sex cleric.
Hell yeah.
I mean, that's what we're going to call him. I'm pretty sure it was Ood that came up with it while we were smoking pot across the room from each other.
Oh, yeah. We might do further episodes about sex rogues, sex wizards, who knows?
Oh, yeah, like
the
whole...
sex warriors.
Oh, definitely sex warriors.
Sex mages.
Sex barbarians out there, the
sex
birth of porn, I think so.
Oh,
yeah.
God, sex barbarians is a good one.
Yeah.
Is this going to be a series? Anyway.
Sex druids.
This gentleman was an old German dude. He worked with a lot of sex, so I think we got to get lubed up ourselves. So what's your poison?
Nice.
Oh, good.
So, what's your poison?
So, what's your poison? What's your poison?
It's Sex on the Beach. It has to be Sex on the Beach. There's no other way to do it. It's peach schnapps, vodka, orange juice, and cranberry juice.
Holy fuck. That sounds fancy. Anything with more than 2 ingredients in a drink sounds fancy to me.
I just stir it.
Delicious.
Delightful.
Because these are often served layered, but they're not. But that's like a choice. Like the drink itself doesn't have to be served layered.
I mean, I'm not a bartender. I never was a bartender. I had some booze around. The ones I see are like, oh, you have to make sure you put the orange slice on there and the maraschino cherry, and you may do the nice layering thing, and this does this. And I'm like, I'm going to throw it in a red Solo cup, and we're going to drink it.
Sometimes I wonder how much of that stuff is like for the gram. Like if you're the Red Lobster marketing team and you're like, we want to make this drink look sexy, there can be a layer of blue for no reason so that people will take a picture and be like, look at this Red Lobster drink, come to Red Lobster.
I mean, people like pretty drinks.
It's true.
People do like pretty drinks.
Yeah.
Same with people like pretty food,
first.
right?
Yeah.
So if your shit looks like shit, you're going to be like, fuck no.
Yeah.
You should see the way people flip out over a fucking beer head.
There's a Penn and Teller bullshit episode where they serve just like Cool Whip and they say like, this is Russian moose made from the cream of a holy cow, and we beat it 130 times. And everybody that tasted it was like, "Oh, this is so good! This is so magnificent!" I think I would be one of those guys that would buy right along with it. And
Me too.
Think the Cool Whip is awesome.
Oh,
1,000,000%.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I feel bougie, and this is adding to my experience, and therefore it tastes better.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sex on the Beach.
It's delicious. It's like a breakfast drink.
It is kind of like a breakfast drink. It kind of tastes like my dad used to give me. This sounds like a bad start to a story. We would do virgin mimosas, which is just ginger ale and orange juice, instead of champagne and orange juice. And it's just like it was really good all the time. So for a long time, I just drank ginger ale and orange juice. Yeah, it's kind of like this.
Perfect.
I do enjoy a good orange juice.
It's a Tropicana no pulp. Because I didn't feel like pulp was going to be good in a Sex on the Beach. I don't want my sex to be pulpy.
No one wants pulpy sex.
Yeah, good call on the no pulp though. Like a straight orange juice with lots of pulp, like that is fantastic.
Yes,
I like a pulpy orange juice.
I love a pulpy with the jussy bits.
With the juicy bits, because in the UK they don't know about pulp. They just know about juicy bits.
They only know about juicy bits.
It's disgusting.
Man, I think Sage hit it right on the head. This is like a breakfast drink.
Sage?
Did I say Sage?
Sage.
I think Sage.
Mary.
I think Sage hit it right on the head. This is like a breakfast drink.
Ub gamnafre. Like Sage Mary. Rasha bakla. Evoir. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did, for those of us having the full-sized ones, which is Ugly Horse, Richard, Ood, and myself, that it is 3 ounces of alcohol in there.
Oh, fuck.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, an ounce of it is
This is
peach
3
schnapps.
ounces?
Well, it's 2 ounces of vodka, an ounce and a bit of, well, a little under an ounce of peach schnapps.
This
and
is
then
dangerous.
You can be my bartender any day.
Oh, yeah. I like...
pour.
This tastes like a 5% cooler. This is dangerous.
Sounds like he's trying to get us fired up for some sex on the beach.
Absolutely. I want you guys to get up for some weird sex bullshit.
Yeah.
From weird German people.
This is a great hangover drink, I bet.
Yes, because I have a hangover today because I turned 37 on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And thanks.
So old.
And
close to death.
And it's Saturday, and you're still hungover.
No, okay. But yet last night, like, I'm really into Formula One now.
Oh
shit.
So I was watching the qualifying last night, and I had like 3 glasses of wine, and I stayed up past midnight, and I woke up this morning, and I was just like, it was coming out both ends. Like, I was so sick, and my head still hurts.
Man.
The end. Don't get old, kids.
This will take the edge off, though.
Yeah.
For those of you that are listening who know who these people are, we could absolutely do a Sage, Murray, Murgy, and Bambi watch Formula One because the 3 of you were all into F1.
Really?
Because Murg was on Discord last night, and we were just watching. Well, they were watching F1. I was watching my script not get written because I was not done procrastinating it.
I mean, not gonna lie, I watched like a 40-minute documentary on the engineering of Formula One vehicles, and like they're really their exact engineering is sort of intriguing. Also, I wonder if people with obscure interests ever feel like gay people. Like
what?
Can both.
If you're a person that doesn't know many gay people, and like you find out 2 people you know are gay, you're like, oh, I gotta make them meet. They gotta meet and be friends. I wonder if people with obscure interests are like, oh, 2 Formula One people, they must meet. They must be friends.
Yeah, but Formula One is so popular over the world. Like,
but
it's
not
a
here.
huge thing. Just not here.
Yeah. I know literally 2 people that like Formula One.
Well, now you know 2 more.
Now I know 2 more. I'm so excited.
Actually,
sounds like an Ovpod Formula One special.
There's another guy called Softwire who may or may not actually follow Ovpod, and he also does.
If we let Bambi off the chain, like they'd probably just do a Formula One episode.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm gonna message Bambi right after we're done this.
Yeah, message Bambi. Tell him to get Murg in the conversation and plan an Offpod F1.
Offpod F1 watch a palooza.
If genuine passion and interest is all you need to do in an episode, I think that qualifies. I'll listen.
I learned that Yuki Tsunoda apparently has a nasty temper.
Yes.
Which is weird because he's so little and cute.
He's shorter than I am.
Yeah, he's tiny.
He's like 5'2".
He fits in his car real good.
Yeah.
Any ratings on the Sex of the Beach? It's
10 out of 10.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I'm gonna have this for a hangover.
Yes, I'm really excited that
if I can figure out how to make it.
10 out of 10. Yes, I agree. Nothing like 3 ounces of liquor in the morning.
Yeah, it is like 11:30 as we're recording this.
In this tribe, the hair was cut in a special style when a boy reached adolescence.
Josie, don't bother George.
You almost finished with that report, George?
Yeah, just about.
He's reading about Indian boys, adolescents like him.
Why don't you grow up?
Grow up? I'm just as grown up as you are, even if you are older.
Says who?
Mrs. Baker. She said that girls mature about a year earlier than boys.
I suppose if she said you were a genius, you'd believe her.
Yes, I would.
Now, George, I think Josie is right in believing Mrs. Baker. She's a lovely person and a very good teacher.
All the kids at school like her.
When we talk about growth, we usually think of growing up. But the long road of growth is not just up. If it were, it would mean that this little baby would someday look like this. Now, let's see how human beings really grow. Here are 2 average babies, a little boy and a little girl. In the course of a few years, they will reach maturity. During the first 3 years, growth is very rapid. The boy and girl become twice as tall and 5 times as heavy as they were at birth. By the age of 6, they have added still more height and weight. Notice that the boy is a little bigger than the girl. At 9, arms, legs, and trunks have become long and slender, giving the body a slim appearance. At about this age, the girl grows more rapidly than the boy. By 12 or 13, the average girl is taller and heavier than the boy, and she looks more mature. At 15, the girl's growth slows down, while usually the boy keeps on growing rapidly for another year or 2. When they reach their late teens or early 20s, they are fully mature people, with the boy again being appreciably larger than the girl. By comparing the adult with the child, we can see the growth changes more clearly. Notice that the adult face and head are less round, and the arms, legs, and trunk relatively longer. The boy's shoulders are broad and his body muscular, while the girl's body is more curved. Thus, we see that growth is more than just growing up. The form of the body changes as well.
So I want to start with the fact that this episode is sourced majorly from an article written about Eugen Steinach called Eugen Steinach, 1861 and 1944, Life of Research, by one Harry Benjamin, M.D., in December of 1945.
He sounds hairy.
Probably was. This was actually written about a year and a half after this guy died. So things are pretty contemporary. I will point out right away that there's a very obvious bias because this was in the same way that currently the 18th Prime Minister of Canada, Byron Maloney. No. Myron Baloney? No.
Myron Baloney.
Something like
Mulrooney?
that. Anyway, he died recently.
He did.
And a lot of people were like, wow, he was a piece of dog shit. And people were like, oh, you can't say that. He was a prime minister, blah, blah, blah. Anyway.
Oh, I'm so passionate about that. If you live a shitty life, we're going to make fun of you in death. Like, live a life worth praise, and then I'll respect you.
That said, I don't want to draw a parallel between Myron Baloney and Eugen Steinach. I literally can never remember the guy's actual name. Yeah. It's bad. Because unlike him, he was a good dude. There will be a link in the show notes to the paper that I'm reading from. It is on JSTOR, which means you need access through a school. Ben, just please do remember, do not go to scihub.se. That's sci-hub.se. Put the entire JSTOR link in the box and get the paper for free. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
That's piracy. Yeah. Don't do that.
Like, just think, do you want to be responsible for that executive not getting their 30-odd?
Yeah. His kids are just going to get Teslas instead of Jaguars when they turn 16. Do you really want to deprive his kids of that?
Embarrassing.
Exactly. So don't do that.
Yeah.
Get it through legitimate means.
Every time you steal a scientific paper through scihub.se, that's sci-hub.se, just put the link in the box and it works. But don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Even if the scientists that write those papers mostly say, yes, please steal my paper, I want people to read it.
If you contact the scientists, they'll often just send you the paper for free, too.
Well, this one's probably dead because he wrote this thing in the 40s. So he's probably very dead and does not give two shits.
True.
Another good site is 12foot.io, like 12ft.io. It removes all the paywalls if you want to read something from like
so don't do
Vulture
that.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah,
Don't do that
don't
so
do
you know
that
where
either.
not to go.
Yeah.
Also, don't go to thepiratebay.org.
No.
That's also a bad place.
Yeah, but
I wouldn't download
if you're not going to go to piratebay.org, you also don't have to have a VPN and probably shouldn't get a torrent client.
Yeah. And if you have a
Like
roommate
uTorrent
that
or
sometimes
MicroTorrent.
forgets to turn it on, you get letters from your ISP. I am sorry about that.
Yeah.
And definitely don't go to seedhost.eu and get yourself a remote hosted seed box for torrenting either. That's you definitely don't want to do that.
Also, you can 3D print a gun. Okay, Eugen Steinach.
But you can 3D print a gun, apparently.
You can 3D print guns. Every time I'm looking through prints, it's like household stuff. It's like an organizer for your kitchen drawers, the upper for an AR-15. It's like, okay, that's fine. We should actually do, side note, an episode on all the places you shouldn't go and shouldn't do, like Sci-Hub and BitTorrent and all that.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
Poke, poke. Yeah.
Eugen Steinach was born in Austria. His dad and his grandfather, both practicing physicians. I realize that there's a weird little bit of terminology here. A physician is just a doctor. Like, it's not a specific trade or anything. I don't know if it is now. Maybe. I'm kind of confused. They use physician and doctor interchangeably. Also, they're Austrian. And every time I try to look up a paper, I'm like, I'm just going to look up this paper, and it's in Austrian.
Is it kind of like PhD now? Like you can call somebody a doctor of physics?
So they have...
I think physician is just probably more specific in terms of like just saying it's a doctor of medicine,
like
not
we would
a physics doctor.
We would say MD.
Though I like the idea of you using it like a trade, like I'm a journeyman physician.
Well, in the same way that you could be a cardiologist or you could be an endocrinologist, but a physician isn't like a specific doctor. It's just a doctor. Dad and Grandpa were both doctors. He was born into a doctoring family. His grandfather was also a successful and enthusiastic cattle breeder.
Oh. Uh-oh.
That's what we call foreshadowing in the business. This whole period has been described by Steinach himself as the pre-sex gland period.
Oh, boy.
So he studied medicine.
That means there's going to be a sex gland period.
There's absolutely
sex gland
foreshadowing.
Multiple sex gland periods.
Sex gland period is the name of my 80s synthwave revivalist group.
That's really good. He studied medicine right after high school and got his MD at 25 and immediately went into research. Didn't like doing... There's some anecdotes about how like he was a little squeamish around people blood and didn't like operate on people and thought it was kind of gross. He just preferred to do medical research, which apparently doesn't require people. I don't know. It's the 1800s.
Use animals.
Yeah. Oh, we'll talk about that.
Oh.
He worked in the University of Prague over the next 20 or so years and published works such as studies on the blood circulation of the kidney, time reaction to temperature sensations, experiments to measure temperature and pressure sensation time, and visceromotor function of the posterior roots of the medulla oblongata.
Wow.
Oh.
Sorry, I didn't mean to just toss that at you. I meant to like throw
Is that a part of the brain?
Yeah, medulla oblongata is a chunk of the... Is it the part that connects the brain stem to the rest of it? Is it the little ball thing at the kind of base of the brain?
Kind of. It's like it goes spinal cord, medulla oblongata, pons.
Yeah. So it's the bit that connects your lower spinal cord into the rest of your brain.
Yeah.
It's your brain stem. Anyway, so that's the kind of research he was doing. Obviously, like I said, pre-sex gland.
Yes. Pre-sex gland.
I titled this section "The Nuts."
Oh.
From 1910 to 1920. He started doing research on the naughty bits and how they worked. Previous studies in the 1850s had tried to implant rooster testicles into hens.
What?
But apparently bird balls are weird and not encased in a single thing like mammal balls are. They're just kind of freely in the body of the bird.
Like a wandering womb?
No, like just a squishy structure.
It's not a solid structure, kind of like probably like a gelatinous mass sort of thing.
Yeah,
is that
like,
kind of what you get?
Think of a testicle.
Okay.
You now have your own personal mental testicle. That testicle, if you were to take it out of its sac, would have a epidermis of some variety or whatever on the outside of it.
Spermules or whatever they're called. Spermia-wiles?
Mental testicle is the name of my
British. It's got to be a British.
I found
British Guar cover band.
You want to see a bird testicle?
Well, like I know that the inside of a testy is basically like a series of tubes that produce their sperm. So like
pee is stored in the balls.
It's like unbound. It would just be all those strings kind of loose floating, like instead of like bound in a little ball.
Yep, pretty much. So that was hard. Also, birds aren't real anyway, so I'm not even sure what they are trying to do.
They're all government drones.
Do birds have sex, missionary? How do they do it?
The male usually hops. Yeah, it's a cloacal kiss.
Oh.
Cloaca.
The male bird hops on top of the female bird and it kind of like...
There you go.
Slurps its butt down so that the cloacas go like that.
Thank you for feeding my brain today, Sage.
You're welcome.
Yeah. If you Google chickens fucking, you will see, yep, that's...
Chickens fucking.
Chickens fucking.
I just know that ducks get rapey about it. As we learned in
the last time I was here when I talked about animal dick and I had a slideshow. I do not have a slideshow for this animal dick.
Yeah.
Eugen thought to use mammals instead of birds because why the fuck wouldn't you be using mammals? There's so much similar. He used rats because, of course, rat testicles are like a third of their body. So he would take the testicles out of the rat, and he would watch as the prostate shrunk and some of the other anatomy like atrophied, and they started to almost seem senile when he castrated them. And then he would take one of those testicles and reimplant it underneath the skin somewhere else. And it was rejuvenating. They got their vigor back, their prostates enlarged back to a normal size, and they started trying to fuck again, even after just implanting this nut.
Just like behind their ear?
On their back? It just said a lot of this was not particularly well documented, and it was well documented in German.
Question.
Yes.
Is that like the same idea as like an amputee or like getting skin grafting and they like sew it inside the body so it heals better?
Kind of thing. I think it was trying to figure out, is this like, obviously you take the gland out and it stops producing. This is before the advent of knowing what testosterone and estrogen were, right? Like we didn't know really about hormones. So you take the thing out, they no longer can do man things.
That's kind of the beauty of osmosis, is like our cells in our body float in like this little puddle of extracellular fluid that has all the nutrients and stuff that we need, and really it goes through cell walls just through osmosis. That's how most of our biology is based. So if you place something in that, and it also has access to the multicellular fluid in between cells, then just through osmosis it'll get nutrients as well. I mean, maybe someday. Like, I wouldn't doubt that, like, testicle transplants, like, maybe in our near future.
Yeah.
And even like, I don't know if it'll be in our lifetimes. It may be with, like, exponential growth of genetic research, but they might be able to just straight up just fucking CRISPR somebody into a dude. Like, down to the genetics.
I mean, just recently, and I was talking to Oud about this earlier, in Boston, they transplanted a genetically modified pig kidney into someone else, and it started producing urine.
Wow.
So they're thinking that you might be able to start genetically modifying pigs and shoving their organs inside you. So starts with kidneys. What's next? Livers, testicles, ears, eyeballs.
I've heard, like, I wonder about the ethics of that. Like, I would want them to almost, I don't know, it's complicated. I'd almost want them to grow like brain-dead pigs in order to do that. So there's not a suffering entity within that. Or maybe the surgery isn't that invasive, and, like, maybe they can live a good life in between. I don't know.
I believe there's work generally geared towards food production, but I'm sure there might be medical applications where they're using cells to try to come up with entire, like, organs based on that.
That'd be cool.
Well, and this is obviously going to be the fight, right? Is vegans saying you can't use animals for anything, even if it's going to save someone's life. Other people saying, don't you dare put anything but human organs inside me because I'm a people, not an animal. Which is incorrect.
Oh, can you imagine if an Alex Jones type gets word of, like, they're implanting genetically modified pig organs into people? Good God.
Tired of them putting organs in the people. They're turning them freaking gay.
Yep.
Yeah.
We will get on to that part, too.
I'll be 2% pig if it allows me to live another 10 years.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck it.
So they inserted a pig kidney into a human, and then he came out and insisted on being called officer.
I like
You will
pedals.
respect me, sir.
It's all good. Yeah.
So you can figure it out. Obviously, you can take a testicle out, make some less testically, put a testicle back in, more testically. So what about it happens? So where cometh the cum?
The balls.
So he was actually one of the first people that was able to reimplant these testicles and have them root in and vascularize. A lot of other people could get them, like, the tube back together, but he could, whatever his surgical technique, he was able to get that part done in animals.
Yeah.
Was it recreatable?
Oh, very much so.
Okay.
He had, in fact, I'll talk about this a lot later, but he didn't like operating on humans, so he always just had a stable of surgeons that would operate on people for him. He got these procedures going, but it was like, I'm not that kind of doctor. I'm going to do research, and someone else can do the procedure.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't even an ethics thing. It was more of, like, a personal, like, squeamishness thing.
Oh, yeah, he just didn't operate on people. There's a couple papers I read that said that he was squeamish about operating on people. There's other people that just said he didn't like it. He was a research doctor.
Yeah.
Right? It's like an engineer saying like, well, why aren't you designing a bridge? Well, I'm not that kind of engineer.
Yeah.
Right? It's not all doctors. I mean, pathologists only really work on dead people.
Yeah.
Right? And that's just their thing. So he would implant these testicles, get them to root, and found through microscope slides that when he took... Yeah. It just roots in.
Put the rooting compound on the balls, and yeah.
Yeah.
If he had hormones, he would absolutely have. After they were implanted, the spermatogenic tissue started to die.
That's hard to say, but fun to say.
Spermatogenic.
Yeah.
Spermatogenic.
Spermatogenic.
It's like spermatozoon.
Yeah.
So it loses that spermatogenic tissue, and this other stuff called Layfield cells or interstitial tissue grows in. And he thought, well, it must be that. Spermatogenic cells make cum. This other stuff must make the male hormone, he called it.
Which in his age of science isn't like a huge leap. Like, it'd be a huge leap today because we know so much more about it, but like it was a reasonable assumption to make, I think.
Oh, and like eunuchs have been around for a long time. It's been long known that if you take the testicles off of a person, they will stop growing in certain ways. If you do it before puberty, they won't hit puberty. If you do it after puberty, they have these other changes. Like, this part was known implicitly, right?
Yeah.
There was an entire league of singers who were known as the castrados who were castrated early in life.
So he makes these claims. He says, yep, I put this thing in, I'm calling it the puberty gland. I can reimplant and reroot these testes, and it's going to be great. Of course, everybody hated it. They all said, no, this is stupid. This doesn't work at all. Later in life, after he was famous, he actually spoke at a conference about it, and it was assumed that he was going to be the last speaker. And he does his thing, he talks about the puberty organ, and he goes and sits down, and someone else stands up and is like, thank you very much, Eugen. We're so very happy. You're such a great guy. And I was like, good. He said nice things. And someone else stands up and says, I would like to say some words. Okay, here it comes. He goes, Eugen, you're so great at this. Fucking mint. Great. Good job. Except all in German. Yeah, Puma pants from the Costco.
Yeah.
My socks are also from Costco. So are my pants.
So he was expecting to be made fun of because he'd been made fun of for so long.
The third guy stands up.
Oh, shit.
A guy called Benda.
I don't like him already.
And Benda was the most ardent anti-Steinach guy. And this is after he gets famous. It's a little out of place, but the story fits better here. He's already famous for a different thing called his rejuvenation procedure. And this guy hated Steinach. And he stands up, and this is how it's written in the paper, more or less. He stands up, gets to the front, and he thanks Eugen Steinach for all of his work and realized that he had redone. And he had retried, and he found the same thing, so he was no longer a Steinach hater. And they shook hands, and everyone stood up and applauded.
Aww.
Is the level of writing from this guy, Dr. fucking, what's his name? Dr. Benjamin. It's like, and then they all stood up and
everyone stood up and applauded.
It's like at the award shows where two like rival celebrities kind of bury the hatchet in front of the whole academy or whatever, and everyone's all applauding. And
science is right,
better than slapping the guy.
So, like, is this the equivalent of the two homosexual lover paleontology fighter bone people like forgiving each other? If you listen to the podcast, you know who I'm talking about.
The Bone Wars.
The Bone Wars.
Yeah, back to our Bone Wars. Less that and more, like, at the time of this conference, Eugen Steinach was very famous and well respected throughout the medical community.
Okay.
And, like, he had 20 years of doing research in Prague, where he did. I read out some of those boring titles about the medulla oblongata and, like, touch timing and stuff like that. Like, he was a very good scientist. It's just that when he talked about, well, I think this is the puberty organ and this thing happens and here's my microscope slides, some doctor's going to say, no, you're an idiot. And scientists do this all the time. There's currently a thing in gravity research where someone says, they have a new theory of gravity called cotton gravity.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
supposed to fix all of the problems with. Oh, you're an anti-cotton gravity guy. Okay.
String theory or go home.
String theory is already out of whack anyway. Anyway, so he says cotton gravity. Cotton gravity is going to fix it. Cotton gravity is going to be good. Another team goes, well, we read the paper and like you did all of your math wrong. So like maybe redo this. And then they had a response. It was like, actually, if you look through our paper and actually do the work, and if you can do algebra, you'll see it's fine. And they came back with another response. It's like, actually, we did the math, and it turns out that this part and this part is wrong. And there was a fifth response from the cotton gravity people. It's like, well, I'll admit that this part might be a little ambiguous, but really, and like scientists do this shit all the time.
There was a guy, was a computer programmer or whatever, but he created a program that scrolls through scientific papers and recreates the math in them.
Cool.
And verifies its correctness and can be like, oh, well, you transcribed 2 numbers here, and this, therefore, your calculation was wrong, or you did this, or you should have done that.
Yeah, forgot to carry the one.
That's kind of cool that there's a bot that's double checking your math on these science papers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they had that kind of fight. But in this point, he stood up and shook his hand, and everyone clapped. It was great.
Well, like, was he... Because I know early in the history of sex research, and it sounds like he may have been, like, seen as part of that. A lot of sex researchers were seen as degenerates and perverts and stuff like that. Was he lumped into that or not really?
So Eugen Steinach used to carry around a letter that he had gotten from a Hungarian priest that told him because of all of his sex research, he was going to hell immediately.
Oh, wow.
And he used to carry this letter around to show people how much bullshit he had to deal with for all of this. And Eugen Steinach, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but like he got fucked over by the media all the time. He got fucked over by people all the time. And it was because, oh, you're working with testicles. Gross.
Yeah.
Well, I want to know how hormones work.
Yeah.
Ew, gross. You can't do that because that's a bad Christian, like that kind of thing.
Weird instinct, because, like, okay, they're hanging off every male mammal out there. You think there might be something interesting there that it keeps on recreating multiple times in species across continents. Like,
no, but God hates you.
Oh, okay.
So that's why.
Okay, it's just a super reliable system that's existed for millions of years.
Yeah.
Why would we need to look into that? Nothing fun to find there.
So where do you go from here, right? You've isolated that obviously the testicle produces some kind of thing. We're calling it the puberty hormone.
Thing is stored in the balls.
Thing is stored in the balls. And we can transplant this ball around and it still does its job. So we should figure out what we can do with this. Enter guinea pig time. Leon Filger,
time.
This one's for you.
Aw.
Can I make something female turn into something male? At this point, somewhere in here, he actually moved out of Prague and went to Vienna, but always in Austria. So this dude, out the gate, went and trans some guinea pigs. This dude went out and transed some guinea pigs.
Fuck yeah.
So, here's a procedure. Take some guinea pigs. You cut the balls off of a couple of them, leave some of them neutered, leave some of them intact. You cut the balls off of one, you put them in a girl guinea pig, and you take the ovaries out of that one, and you put it in the boy guinea pig.
Switchies.
And
Switcheroo.
Switcheroo. Just a little switcheroo. And you also castrate some females as well. And this was all done with lab animals, so they were all genetically related so that they could all have each other's organs. It was great. So just yoink some ovaries out and slap some balls in. Here are some of the things that happened in MTF pigs. They produced milk-producing nipples. Their penis stayed tiny, basically a clitoris. Their body was shaped more like a female than a male. Their hair got shorter and softer as opposed to the males who have longer but shaggier hair. Their skeletal structure started to change, with their hips changing and other bits changing that they found out with x-rays.
Sounds like HRT.
And other males tried to fuck them because they were now either, whether it was like a pheromone or a behavior thing, or I don't know what makes guinea pigs fuck.
Yeah.
If anyone can send us an email, feedback@offpod.ca.
I can ask my vet sister. She's got like 5 guinea pigs.
Sure, just ask why do guinea pigs fuck?
So the male guinea pigs wanted to fuck the guinea pigs that had the ovaries implanted into them?
The trans women guinea pigs, yeah.
Oh.
And they wanted to fuck them.
Femboys.
Well, no. At this
I
point...
mean, femme girls.
At this point, yeah, femme girls.
I mean, yeah.
On the FTM pigs, so the ones that were female that had testicles implanted in them, they grew a dick.
Oh.
That happens. They started making boy noises instead of girl noises. Apparently, it's really... The high squeaky one is girl noises, and like a lower grunty one is boy noises. Ooh. And they made those. They also got much bigger. So this is the paper that I'm cribbing off of. It's different when you steal it from a paper instead of just Wikipedia, because then it's called science. And in said paper, there are pictures of guinea pigs.
Guinea pigs.
Now you will notice that on the outsides of them, there are big guinea pigs, and on the insides of them, there are little guinea pigs.
Yeah.
The big ones are the boys, and the little ones are the girls.
Oh, they have bigger males in that species. That's interesting.
From left to right, masculinized sister. Big one.
Yar.
No, that's not right. Normal sister.
The boys didn't shrink, right? The boys stayed the same size relatively, or...
The boys got...
there should be a slight correction with this. This was done on infantile guinea pigs that had not hit puberty yet. So they were able to basically develop from a very, very young guinea pig and go through a puberty that matched the
guinea pig
glands that were put in them.
Okay.
So like the ones that had the ovaries implanted in them went through a female puberty.
Okay.
Because they were producing estrogen from a early age. But they didn't know that. They just went, what happens when I yoink bits around?
Yeah.
So you can see, like, masculized females look and act like dudes.
Yeah.
Feminized males look and act like females.
Yeah.
The female, or the FTM pigs grew a dick, made boy noises, and got real big.
Yeah.
They also had mothering instincts.
Yeah.
So male guinea pigs apparently don't give two shits about any babies. They just do not care and ignore them.
Yeah.
Female guinea pigs, however, have good mothering instincts.
Yeah.
The feminized male guinea pigs showed mothering instincts, which shows that at least some of that is endocrine, right? It's hormones, which, again, none of this is groundbreaking now, but in 1920, this was groundbreaking research.
Right.
He started talking to a certain Sigmund Freud about this.
Oh, that fuck.
And it was seen as, because Freud was dealing with this problem where the physical body and the mental body seemed to be separate from each other, and there was no biological connection between the way you were working or your psyche and your body. They use other terms because sex clerics.
Funny that. Funny that we keep on finding that the body and the mind are disconnected, and that's why you kind of have dysphoria and shit.
But here you change the hormones that are in the body, and suddenly you start doing things. And this isn't people with lots of thoughts. This is guinea pigs who are probably, sorry, Leon, not the most complex critters in the world. They are small mammals. They just do the things they do. They're like tiny fuzzy robots that I love.
And tasty.
And
if
tasty.
You ask a Peruvian.
I mean, I think anyone can say they're tasty.
Yeah, I'd eat one. Sorry, Leon. I'd try one.
Kentucky Fried Guinea Pig.
I'd feel guilty. I'd try. Oh, fuck yeah.
After all of this went down, and after this research got out, he published, they started referring to him as a sexologist, or as we call them, sex clerics.
Do I do divine music or scary music?
I think just like generic thunder and lightning. Well, I guess thunder noises because lightning is. Yeah.
I mean, there's a thunder subclass. Fuck yeah.
Yeah. So then we get to the gay stuff, because of course there was gay stuff. Now I want to mention again, this was the 1920s. This was actually cutting edge research. A lot of the stuff we know about homosexuality, about essentially what we know now about gender and biology, they did not know 100 years ago. Let's talk about the gay stuff. There's a bunch of steps that he took that are related in the literature, but again, the literature is German and 100 years old, and I cannot find good translations. And Google translates really bad because it's medical stuff. And not only is it German, it's Austrian German.
Yeah.
So like it's
disgusting.
I can kind of parse through German most of the time. Austrian's weird. It's basically like he made a leap from topic to topic to topic that I just don't get.
Right.
because it's in German. The leap he made was German.
Yeah.
And ich spreche nicht Deutsch.
Yeah.
Austrians have a really hard R in their accent, I think.
Not all hard R's are bad.
I was like, oh no.
I like a hard sometimes.
I think the hard R we're familiar with is bad, though.
Yeah, that one, not good.
Yeah.
So he starts throwing x-rays in what is described as stimulating doses at prepubescent guinea pig internal ovaries.
That's whenever I receive a spicy picture. I get a stimulating dose.
Stimulating dose. What happened was he got them to start puberty. So you take prepubescent guinea pigs and you irradiate them a certain amount in a stimulating way.
What's that funny?
And they start producing secondary sexual characteristics. Basically, sex clerics can cast power word puberty.
Yeah.
Which would
They
suck.
put the radiation in the guinea pigs that turned the guinea pigs into adults.
Suddenly there was hair where there wasn't hair before.
Could you imagine, though, power word puberty? Like,
Oh,
you just have to go through puberty again right now.
Oh, I need to take you through a splat book in 3.5.
Oh, no.
There's a spell called Induce Pregnancy.
Uh-oh.
That was balanced and approved by Wizards of the Coast. No, Wizards of the Coast did not own it at the time. Whoever owned D&D approved it, though.
Probably something.
Gygax Incorporated or whatever.
It's called TSR.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
The shit reamers.
That's where my Dragonlance books are from.
Fuck yeah.
My glasses.
So we figured out, hey, I could make a guinea pig into an adult guinea pig by irradiating its ovaries. I should try shoving a single ovary and testicle into a guinea pig at once and see what happens.
Man.
They'd fight.
Right?
What if God's a guinea pig and we're all fucked?
He then described it
We're all
in a
going
paper in a publication called Archiv für Entwicklungsmechanik. And I can't fucking read the paper that describes the guinea pig, and this cunt doesn't do it because it's all in German.
It is schmul and has hair.
Schmul with hair.
It's good taste, not spice. Spice hurts the mouth.
What the fuck?
That turned Italian at the end.
What the fuck accent is this?
I'm sorry.
Look at me, I'm
Look at me. I'm a German. Boopity boopity. Itchy butt. Anyway,
That's why I don't do accents in D&D. They always turn Italian or Irish.
And this is the jump. So, hermaphrodite guinea pig that I don't know the results of. Oh, we should look at homosexuality. Like, I don't get the connection. I'm sure it's there somewhere. Something in the behavior of that guinea pig led to him thinking about homosexuality.
Yeah.
And again, he was working with Sigmund Freud, as well as a guy who we're not going to talk a lot about this time for reasons, called Magnus Hirschfeld, who ran a place called the Institute for Sexual Wissenschaft.
Yeah.
Which I will never say the English translation name because the Institute for Sexual Wissenschaft is much more fun. It basically just means like sex research.
Didn't that get destroyed by the Nazis? Oh, I'm sorry. Spoiler alert.
Essentially, I'm going to do an episode on Magnus Hirschfeld entirely because I think it is really it's an important body of work to look at to understand what Magnus was doing and what happened to his research.
Yeah.
Long story short, burnt by the Nazis. If you've seen the pictures of Nazis burning books, they're burning Magnus Hirschfeld's research on gender.
The only thing that I can remember that might be related to something he said is it's been discovered that the more boys a woman has in her lifetime, the more estrogen what's the thing that connects the baby and the mother?
Umbilicus.
Placenta?
Yeah, the more estrogen will be allowed through the placental barrier into the baby's body, and the more boys you have, the higher chance those boys born later on will be LGBT.
Well, and this is where we have these weird difficulties with what is both like gender studies but also endocrinology of like you can find these things that having a bunch of males in a row, you're more likely to have at least one gay. But
she can't see.
Is it nature? Is it nurture? Is it what anyway. I don't have a lot to talk about on that one. It requires more research and a bit more of a delicate touch than talking about the sex cleric. But we will talk about Magnus Hirschfeld on another time.
Yay.
He was working with Magnus Hirschfeld doing stuff with gender. So then he did a little conversion therapy.
Oops.
Yeah. Again, 1920s. These things unfortunately happen.
To be fair, and like I use that like it sounds like he may be like interested or like at least aligned with like trans people, or at least trying to understand them. Like, I wonder if he saw gay people being persecuted and he was trying to give them a way out, or if he was like actual like hateful of gay people.
I realized after writing about half of this episode that I should have just written a longer episode about him and Magnus Hirschfeld and the Institute for Sexual Wissenschaft. This is a taster on German gender research in the 1920s that I'm going to touch on. I'm going to touch on later.
Yeah, because there's a bug in your butt now.
Because I have to.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about
quite literally
about homosexuality.
Okay. I will speculate later.
It's way up
or the
there.
bug in my butt.
Yeah.
It is very. It's a beetle of some kind. Just every now and
Oh, good. Cicada anal.
Cicanal.
Cicanal. Sorry, I forgot. There's a whole community for it. Maybe I've upset the
Cicanal community.
Yeah. We're proud. Cicanal anals.
Some bug bugger is like real pissed off. So he castrates a gay man.
Oh.
And he implants the undescended testes of another man who was not gay. And this dude starts porking chicks.
Huh. What?
Yeah. So, dude starts porking chicks after getting straight balls put in him.
Do you think that was...
Do you think that was just out of fear?
Yeah.
So Magnus says that means homosexuality is purely an endocrine thing, and you can change someone's sexuality by changing their hormones.
So gayness is stored in the balls.
I have a different theory.
If only Mario could make leaps like that.
Take a guy with super terrible internalized homophobia in the 1920s, convince him to let you graft a different dude's testicles into your body, and that will turn you #straight pride.
Yeah.
And then that dude wakes up from surgery, and these very important doctors say, "We've done it. We've cured you.
Yeah.
Go and pork." So any guy that goes in to say, "Please change me from a homosexual. I don't want to be a homosexual. I'm literally going to go through surgery for this," probably has a vested interest in not being a homosexual anymore for whatever reason. Again, that internalized homophobia or just general homophobia.
Yeah.
So
kind of a sunk cost fallacy.
Well, and he kind of did the one thing and says, "Turns out gay is in the balls."
Yeah.
That's what's stored in the balls. It's gayness.
It's like if you go through that much effort, you might play the part. Yeah.
Right. And so this is seen, and even in the 40s after his death, like right after his death, this guy's like, he was a little off with this stuff, but we can see how he got there based off of the research that he had done.
Yeah.
And it really does seem like Eugen was not like rabidly out there trying to like unsex homosexuals.
No, it seems like he was just interested in like all of it.
He's just a research scientist.
And like maybe the interaction between hormones and like identity in the brain is more complicated than we might think, and that identity is like hormones interacting with the brain and producing a result in a way. But like, who knows?
So, yeah, Eugen goes out and says he's able to cure homosexuality by giving you different balls. That's not great, but we're going to give him a bit of a pass because he was trying to do the good stuff. But let's get into what made Eugen Steinach famous. I already kind of mentioned this when we were talking about that conference, which happened
where everyone
after
clapped?
he was famous, where everyone clapped. But the problem is that conference was about stuff that he did before he was famous, but it was after he was famous. But I wasn't ready to talk about him being famous. This is writing scripts is hard.
Fucking degen.
So let's talk about what Steinach was really known for. Rejuvenation. Reinvigoration. This is the big shit. This is what Steinach was known for. In a few papers, he had mentioned the effects of castration. The effects of castration on guinea pigs and rats seemed a lot like senility.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like they weren't running around as much. They were starting to lose their hair. Some people said it was mange. He said it wasn't mange and proved it. Yeah. Something about giving them this puberty gland and what we now know as testosterone boosts gave them more oomph, more vitae, more life.
Vim and vigor.
Rejuvenated them. And really, it did, because a testosterone shot is going to give you a little more oomph, right? Allegedly. When you're, if you are a born male and already have testosterone in your body, having more testosterone is going to do it. There's actually a whole thing where he was talking about the inhibitory effects of estrogen and testosterone on each other, that having estrogen kind of gets rid of some of the testosterone that also happens. Other scientists, like even today, this is a
So
debated
it's kind of
topic.
like as a kid when you thought pepper was the anti-salt and vice versa. Where so you'd your mashed potatoes would be too salty, so you'd add like more pepper to them, and then it's too peppery, so you'd add more salt, and then you ended up with like a gross mashed potato that was just completely inedible.
Yeah, but instead it's a very sad trans man.
I feared salt in a way I didn't fear pepper because I had to pour slower or my potatoes would be ruined.
From what I've seen, and again, I'm not a scientist, I could be misinterpreting what I'm reading. There is still debate in the scientific community, and it mostly comes to dosing. Because if you take the idea that estrogen in the body is going to counteract some of the testosterone, you're going to want to updose testosterone if you're trying to do hormone treatments. Yeah. And same with the other way as well. If you have testosterone in your body, estrogen's not going to work as well. Other doctors and scientists say that that's not how that works. So people much smarter than me are figuring that out, and we're back in the 1920s still.
No damn.
So he figured out that, chop off someone nuts, they get sad. Put nut back in, better.
Yeah.
It's like a post-nut clarity.
Yeah.
So all we have...
Fuck. Oh no.
So all we have to do then is get some testicles into some old people.
Yeah.
That's going to revivify them.
Oh.
Just need more testicles.
Now, you may be thinking, wherefore doth all these glands come from?
Oh, no.
Because that's what Eugen was thinking. He wrote it off. He's like, we can't do that. Like, we don't have that many. Because they were using undescended testicles as well. And there's not that many guys walking around there with undescended testicles.
Which have to be surgically removed sometimes, right?
I don't know.
Like,
I would assume that, like, as a phrase, yes, they have to be removed sometimes, but I think you can just descend them now. I remember a story from high school where someone was talking about they got kicked in the nuts and one of them got stuck up there, and the doctor made them stand on top of the table and jump down, and the nut went, and the person immediately fell over and puked.
Yeah.
Because that would be really painful.
That'd be really painful.
Steinach thought, no, it's not going to work. This guy, though, called Voronov in Paris, said he could use anthropoid apes' testicles.
Oh.
As in chimps and bonobos.
Oh, no.
He was going to use apes. Eugen did not think that this was going to happen. Now, he also, though, couldn't really use hormone treatment itself. Like, he couldn't give injections of testosterone because, again, we didn't have testosterone yet. He was alive when testosterone was isolated, which is cool. But in the 20s, not yet.
Right. By bacteria, right?
No. Like from human secretions to isolate. I should say isolate, not synthesize.
Oh, yes.
Isolated testosterone.
Makes sense.
Again, they knew that there was a juice what came from testicles and made boy more boy.
Yeah.
That's about
boy
as far
juice.
as they can. Boy juice. That's basically
boy juice. Yeah. It's like eating willow bark without knowing how to get the aspirin from within it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know that the thing works. You know there's an effect. You know there's some analgesic property of eating red willow bark.
Yeah.
But you don't fully know what that molecule is, and then a chemist goes out and says, I found it. It's acetaminophen or acetylsalicylic acid. I think it's acetylsalicylic acid.
Yeah, you can use it in skincare too.
Yeah. And then you go, okay, now that we know what it is, we can synthesize it, make it different ways, do other things to it, yada, yada. Science. Science. But we're not going to put chimp balls into people. That's stupid. This will come back to haunt him. So they did have some hormone solution, but they just didn't really... It didn't work all the time. You couldn't really dose it. It's a lot like eating mushrooms. You never know if that mushroom's going to have a little more or a little less of the psilocin in it, kind of thing. And testosterone wouldn't be fully discovered until May of 1935 by a Dutch team. Again, Eugen died in 1944, so he was around to see his own work kind of flourish that way.
That's cool.
Now, directly from Dr. Benjamin's paper, I want to quote, "Thus arrived the moment when this ingenious scientist had a truly royal thought."
Oh.
Again, this guy just had a hard-on for Eugen Steinach.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be reading his paper, but it is bad. Don't add more junk to the baggy trunk. Just stop coming.
Oh.
So vasoligation, also known as a vasectomy, is a procedure where the tube that goes from the testes to through the prostate and into the rest of the system gets both ligated or tied off and in nowadays cut, which is the ectomy part.
Yeah.
My husband has that.
And it's not that bad.
And
We
it's not
gone
that
down
bad.
the couch with a bag of peas. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just lost my place. So Eugen Steinach thought that if you vasoligate and you stop the sperm from getting out, it's going to back up, damage the spermatogenic tissues, kill them, and then the puberty gland is going to grow in. This is what he's seen. It has been found out now that the interstitial tissue doesn't actually grow in to replace the sperm producing bits. It actually just kind of inflates a bit, and the same amount of cells are still there. But to them, it looked like, hey, sperm cells die off, more of these androgen cells or these Leidenfeld cells grow in.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, he's gonna tell them that you can just vasoligate and it's gonna rejuvenate, and the crowd went nuts.
Oh, I get it. Testes.
Also, you can do what's called a unilateral vasoligation, which is to just do it on one of them.
Huh.
Because the increased amount of testosterone in their mind was going to rejuvenate.
Mm-hmm.
It worked too, is the problem.
Huh.
I kind of haven't found a lot of, this just fell out of favor as a practice after the 30s when they found testosterone. You could just give a shot of testosterone, way easier than getting one of your nuts cut
Getting a
apart.
vasectomy increases your testosterone level?
So that's the thing. I didn't really do my proper research, and I don't know if that's actually true, but it does appear that for some reason vasoligation does have some rejuvenate.
So they were likely correct, but for the wrong reasons is what you're
I did have a very
suggesting.
slutty mid-20s.
And also, a lot of people that
Who
got
amongst us didn't?
Yeah.
a lot of people that got vasoligations for rejuvenation felt very rejuvenated.
Interesting.
We're also a lot before we knew about what the fuck is it called? Sugar pills make you
Psychosomatic?
still feel good.
Placebo.
This is really before we knew a lot about placebo effect too. So there was some of that in there. We already looked at some studies that he did that were probably not really correct, but were kind of correct. This was a lot of 1920s research, right?
Right.
Steinach summarized all this as: within modest limits, the process of aging can be influenced by the Steinach procedure. So again, that's a pretty reserved way of doing it. It's not, come on down to Uncle Steinach, Uncle Eugen's Big Ball Emporium, right? Now, Eugen Steinach was a research scientist. We've already talked about this. He never did any of his own procedures. So all of the people that got Steinached, which is what they said, and that was a popular term. Aldous Huxley, in one of his books, wrote of a character that they felt much more vim and vigor after they got a good Steinach.
Oh, what the fuck is that?
Something in the hay, I think. It's on if you go on the Eugen Steinach Wikipedia page, it's in the bottom.
Okay.
But yeah, so Aldous Huxley wrote about the Steinach, and people referred to it as getting Steinached, which I think is hilarious.
Man, it's so interesting hearing that, because now I'm getting a whole new perspective on my 20s, because I got a vasectomy when I was 21. I knew early I didn't want kids, so I got a vasectomy, and I was fairly strong before. I was a power lifter in high school, but I got quite a bit stronger, and even today, without working out much, I'm stronger than most people. I'm not easily injured. When I'm sick, I get over it quickly. I don't get injured easily, even though I'm clumsy.
I would love it if someone with an MD, if we could have an actual endocrinologist come and tell me how wrong we are, would be great. But if you know what you're talking about and you can give us an actual study or something that shows this is how this actually works. Again, from my research and what I could find as a layperson, it seemed to have worked and people seemed to really think it worked. But it was also the 1920s and 30s where, snake oil was kind of still a thing.
So this section would be a good TikTok clip, is what you're saying, so that we can have all the TikTok people chime in about.
I don't know. I just side-eyed my microphone super hard.
Future Ood, get it?
Yeah. Get it?
Yeah.
News also widely reported the one Mr. Adolf Lorenz.
Oh, That could have. Oh, good.
Who?
I'm baked. I was expecting a left turn.
You mean a right turn?
Yeah,
Sorry.
Right. So yeah, you're right. A right turn. Yeah.
A right and 45-degree upturn.
Oh, no.
Well, I should say one, Dr. Adolf Lorenz, and I quote, "A few individual cases received wide publicity, such as that of Professor Adolf Lorenz, the famous Viennese orthopedist, who ascribed his return to active practice at the age of 72 after his retirement to a successful Steinach." So this 72-year-old orthopedist came out of retirement because he got one of his nuts, or both of his nuts, cinched, and it made him so vigorous that he could come back to work at 72.
It seems so contrary to evolution in a way, because it's like your goal as a biological organism is reproduction, but then like they're like, well, if you limit one's effectiveness at reproducing, suddenly they have that enthusiasm, that vim and vigor again.
Without damaging the testicle, and only with a vasoligation. That's the thing, because the testosterone isn't coming through the same like bits that the sperm is coming through. It's going directly in the bloodstream. So if you're just cutting off the sperm bits and the rest is all in there, like that's not something that's how often were cavemen or other animals getting just tubally ligated with no damage to the testes.
Yeah.
You know, that's where this is.
It's almost like a biological loophole, like something evolution wasn't prepared for.
The loophole's actually around the other side.
Oh, okay. But like, if it's like, could they measure testosterone in the blood at that time? I'm not even sure.
No, because they hadn't discovered testosterone yet.
Man, it'd be so interesting if they could measure it. Because like, I wonder what the mechanism would be. Would that shut down a section of sperm production, and that section would like produce more testosterone in turn?
Well, again, what the thought was that there was these two different types of cells, right?
Yeah.
The sperm cells and the hormone cells.
Yeah.
And when the sperm cells died off, it gave more room for the hormone cells to grow. We found out later that that's not really how it works, but the hormone cells do get bigger and take up more space. So they may have an ability to produce more testosterone.
Like koi fish.
Sure, because it grows to the size of the tank. I was like, I don't know where you're going with this, but I'm just gonna say, yeah. Again, if I am wrong, and I'm willing to be wrong on this, I am not a doctor.
Yeah, you heard the disclaimer.
Please do not take this as medical stuff. I mean, if you want to do your own vasoligation at home, it is apparently a pretty easy procedure. It was also known in the University of Vienna, or the university that was in Vienna, that about 100 different professors, and this is where Eugen worked and researched in Vienna, about 100 different professors got this procedure done, including one Sigmund Freud.
Da, 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 da.
So now you know that Sigmund Freud had at least one, if not both, of his tubes tied and cut off.
Did you know Sigmund Freud had a brother who was a painter, and he was pretty awesome?
No.
Yeah. And his name was Adolf Hitler.
Fuck.
Sad. Oh, just want to charge your Vappa. So this is where things get kind of sad, and kind of where, like, I got caught up in the same hype. When I first was reading about Eugen Steinach, I was baked at my computer, obviously.
Like you do.
Like you do. But the thing is, I found, hey, look at this kooky weirdo who was transplanting guinea pig balls around. What a weirdo. Oh, look, he had the Steinach cure. He had the rejuvenation bullshit. This is going to go great with my other episodes on snake oil salesman, right? I kind of thought this would be a snake oil thing, right? It's just like fucking, how do I keep forgetting his name? Werner von Braun. Was it Werner von? Werner von Braunhut, the Nazi sea monkey guy, back to my Nazi sea monkey episode.
Yeah.
I thought it was more like that. Turns out I got caught with the same media hype that fucked him up in the mid to late 20s.
Yeah.
So it was pretty easy to pick holes in his theories because, again, we didn't have a lot of evidence and we didn't know how a lot of the stuff worked, but he still had microscope slides, and this was still good science he was doing and publishing in proper papers and doing everything. He wasn't just throwing gonads around. I mean, I don't know that
whipping
he
balls
wasn't
against the wall.
I don't know that he wasn't doing that, but I can assume scientifically he wasn't just whipping balls around.
He at least had enough balls left over to do science after the whipping.
That's right.
Well, and the media also wanted to make out Eugen Steinach as the snake oil salesman as opposed to a proper doctor. And this is a bit of a turning point for him as well. He was getting older, like he's getting closer to his 60s and 50s, or 50s and 60s at this point. And he was a vain person. Like when people spoke badly of him, he took it really hard and went between being an insufferable prick and spiraling into depression, which I can relate to.
Yeah.
Hashtag me too. I can be a dick sometimes. In the bedroom. He was being made fun of so much that vaudeville shows had skits about people getting monkey balls put into them after the Voronov thing from Paris. Because again, one guy says, oh, we could do the Steinach with monkey balls, and now Eugen Steinach is fucked up about it, and it breaks his poor little heart. Like, it really does make me feel bad. Like, I went into this thinking, fuck this dude for juggling balls around, and turns out he's just a really good scientist.
And like it's sad enough to think like, oh, he wasn't like respected as much as he should have been, and like he was laughed at and lauded, but like there's also real world consequences for his career and his research. He will not get partnerships like as often. He will not get sponsors as often.
I'm going to stop you there because we'll talk a little bit about that in the worst part of it. I mean, to be fair, I am reading a paper. To be fair. I am cribbing pretty much all of this off of this one paper from Dr. Benjamin, who wrote it a year and a half after the guy died. So it's not like this is, this isn't a, oh my God, we missed the scientist. Like, he was a well-respected researcher that got caught up in a media storm in the 1920s.
Yeah.
And was like, he was famous for his rejuvenation procedures and not the fact that he was actually doing really good gender research.
Yeah.
And sex research and hormones. And like, he's the reason that we have so much, like, he did a bunch of research and then we found out testosterone. Anyway.
Yeah.
So he started getting suspicious, even of his friends. He thought everyone was out to get him.
Yeah.
And before this, he was apparently a jolly guy. When he was living in Prague in his first kind of 20, like from his 30s to 40s, he was on the town. He was in the beer halls. He was hanging out with people. People loved him. And in his 50s, 60s, after all this media shit, he got sad and bitter and shitty to his wife. His wife, they used to call her Frau Doctor or Frau Professor, because you couldn't talk to Eugen himself. He was such a prick most of the time that you had to go through his wife, who was also his assistant, as happened, because she spoke English and French and German.
Oh, shit.
And like, you had to go through, like, don't talk to Herr Professor, talk to Frau Professor first. She'll make sure that you can talk to Eugen, because he's just being a prick, or he's passed out in his bed for the last week, because a new article came out about how he's putting monkey balls in people. Right? Sad shit. He blamed the blowback on a combination of surgeons being bad at their jobs. Because again, he wasn't doing his own procedures. But when they were happening, he was in the room, he was watching, he was directing. He was very, very specific about how these ligations were done. And he was very specific that you cannot damage the testes or blood flow at all. But all these other fucking quacks, thank you. All these other fucking quacks that are doing the Steinach, they're just yanking shit around and they're damaging the testes and it's not working. And as far as he's concerned, the times it wasn't working, it's probably the surgeon's fault. He also blamed it on sex. Like, people hate sex. People did not want to talk about sex. It was prudish, right?
Yeah.
Like puritanical, he said.
Right.
Like, if it wasn't for the puritanical scientific community, his research would have gone a lot farther, he said.
Yeah.
And really, I think he's correct. If people were a little more sex positive and thought about this stuff, he could have just done his research and it would have been great. And he could have juggled all of the guinea nads he could.
Oh, and there's been a recent resurgence in funding that has allowed research to catch up, but there was a reason that breast cancer research was way behind in research than all the other like cancer research groups, because it was titty cancer. So like, it didn't get the same like attention as the other cancers. Like, and in the last 30 years, it's gotten a resurgence of funding, and it has allowed it to catch up in research for the longest time, just because it was titty research,
My dad refuses to get a prostate exam
Yeah.
because he doesn't want some guy putting his finger up his butt.
Yep.
I don't want prostate cancer.
Yeah, no kidding.
I would much rather. I mean,
you could get a female doctor, then it's not a male doctor.
oh no, but he doesn't want anything up his butt. Nothing near his butt because it's too gay.
What
I
if he
guess.
gets a lollipop after?
Right? Up the butt.
Oh shit! Literally.
So all of the things we've been talking about have pretty much happened in the year of 1920 to 1921. Like the Steinach procedure.
Wow.
All
Just
of his,
exploded. Like,
yeah,
so much stuff.
He was prolific. He published tons and tons of stuff. Kind of took a little bit of a break, though, and he just ran his institute. He had his own hospital that did these rejuvenation procedures, and he had a stable of doctors. He mentioned 2 of them that I'm supposed to know because I'm a doctor reading a paper.
Yeah.
But mentioned 2 very specific surgeons that were really good, and then he had a bunch of other surgeons that were also really good. He spent about 5 years, and Dr. Benjamin that wrote this paper says, in Steinach's waiting room, laboratory, or hospital, the rich and famous from abroad met with the poor and famous from home. So it was the place to be. You met all kinds of people. Sigmund Freud, again, got this procedure done.
Was it fairly, reasonably priced to get done, I guess?
Didn't say. It just... But, I mean, if it's saying that the famous from if it's saying the famous from abroad are hanging out with the poor from home, I'm assuming that it was reasonably priced.
Interesting.
So, Eugen's now in his 60s. He's old and crotchety. So what is a man to do? Female hormones. Let's look at female hormones. We've been looking at a lot of balls, and it's time to start looking at some ovaries. Let's just semi-discover a hormone. So he went ahead and led a team that took bits of placenta and ovary and found the female hormone. He called it progynon. Progenon?
That sounds right.
And what he actually found was follicle-stimulating hormone.
Oh.
So FSH is a hormone in the female-sexed body that stimulates the ovaries to start producing eggs. And by definition also starts producing estrogen. So he didn't find estrogen, but he found a hormone that makes the body start doing estrogen.
The one that flips the light switch.
Kind of thing. So he discovered FSH, didn't know what it was, worked with another group of chemists to synthesize it, or not synthesize, to isolate it, and right there had a thing called progynon that was used until the 40s.
Wow.
And its predecessor, or its successor, is still used today. It's a drug called Premarin.
So, would the egg production side of it... there would have to be ovaries present for it to act on.
Well,
I'm not sure.
I don't actually know. Again, this is one of those it's only so long a paper, and it's not going into all of the German papers that I can't read anyway. So I don't know exactly what he was doing with it, besides the fact that he basically found FSH and made it into progynon.
FSH is in both males and females.
Oh, really?
It's what tells the testes to make the testosterone in boys.
Yeah.
So apparently this follicle-stimulating hormone is
it's
just
part of the gonadotropin stuff.
Oh.
Sorry, I turned away. Gonadotropin stuff.
Excellent.
Gonadotropin. That's another good one. Spermatogenic? Gonadotropin.
Yeah.
Gonadotropin.
That's like part of some sci-fi weapon you could throw. This is the
oh no, he's gonna use the gonadotropin.
So over this time, from the 25-ish to about 35, so about 10 years, he just kind of farted around, did his Steinach thing. He injected this new FSH into a bunch of female rats at different stages of development. He found that if you inject it before puberty, they will tend to be more female. If you inject it after puberty, it will tend to make things less, more female, but not to the same degree. Maybe there was estrogen in the samples he had as well. I don't know. It is still, like they say, this is still used today for some hormone replacement therapies of some kind. I don't know which ones.
It sounds like he's proven twice why puberty blockers would be of interest to trans kids.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, if they want less dysphoria and they want their body to match their identity more, if that's a choice they want to make, if that's how they want to identify, like having puberty blockers ensures that when they do get hormones, like their body will match more of their identity.
So again, I'm going to talk more about this in the next time I talk about this, and I hate that I'm cutting out conversation because like I want to talk about it later in more depth.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
But in this time, he was also working with Magnus Hirschfeld at the Institute for Sexual Wissenschaft, and like the institute was the first place to have ever done a successful in modern medicine sex change operation. Like took a male person, removed their phallus, sculpted vagina, and gave them hormone therapy and turned them into a woman on their behalf. Like Magnus Hirschfeld was doing amazing gender research and transgender research and all of this stuff in the 20s, 30s, and 40s.
When it wasn't
until
popular.
about 30, I don't know, what would that be? Probably 32, 34 or so, when a certain mustachioed creep came in with all of his goons and stole all his research and burnt it down.
9.
Setting back the research by that
decades.
Yeah.
Decades and decades. Like we are getting back. I think we're probably past the point now where Eugen and Hirschfeld would have been. But
so was this a time when research wasn't shared?
Oh no, research was very well shared.
So that's why there's still bits of it out there. Then I'm assuming
the biggest.
If everything was burnt down, like theoretically, there should be still some of that if it was shared.
Oh, we have found like we still have Hirschfeld's a lot of it, but the institute had a library full of research, and people that were researching it would be researching it at the institute, writing in the institute's journals, publishing it in the institute, and keeping it in the institute. Like you could come in and get a copy, but this was 1940s. Like you had to get it printed out for you from a how did they print in the 40s? Oh, one of those mimeotypes with the like
printing presses.
Probably like a mimeograph where you turn the barrel and you can make copies of it and shit, but like or type written up, like not as easy today as just going to JSTOR, taking that URL, going to Sci-Hub, putting it in and getting it for free, which you shouldn't do. 1934, while he's still working with the female hormones, this Dutch team isolates testosterone. Eugen, of course, tried it and used it for the rest of his life and said it was very vigorating. This next very short section, because I'm very close to the end, is called Nazis Ruin Everything.
Oh.
So Eugen and his wife, the Frau Professor, are in Switzerland, in Zurich, doing sciencey things. And one Adolf Hitler marches into Vienna. They are now in exile because they cannot return at all. The Nazis will kill them if they return. And they're Austrians. They're been taken over. So they live in Zurich for a little bit. And not a year later, his wife dies. And this is terrible. But he keeps going. The testosterone injections probably help. He keeps going, and he thinks all he has to do is get to America. Right? If he can get to America, land of the free, he'll be able to continue his research. He's in his 70s. Or no, he's in his 80s at this point. Like,
he doesn't want to stop research?
No, he's still going.
Damn.
19... Died in 1944. So like 42, 43-ish, his wife dies. He's in his 80s. He thinks he's going to go to America. But every time he talks to the people that are going to try to get him into America, because he has to be invited, because you can't just take in everyone because it was World War II. But every time someone has some excuse. Well, the American Medical Association isn't going to like your research. And, well, you're a little old to be doing research. You should just retire in Zurich. And, well, we don't really want German doctors in America doing research on gender because that's not great. And we're doing more eugenicsy stuff.
Until they become useful paperclip. And all that.
And too controversial. He had all this controversy about the Steinach thing and putting monkey balls in people, so I just don't want him. Jeez. So at the age of 84, May the 14th, 1944, Eugen Steinach died alone and somewhat embittered.
Aw. Fucking Nazis.
Solemn.
Now, like I said, I did skip over a bunch of stuff with Magnus Hirschfeld and the Sextatute for Institutional Wissenschaft. The Institute for Sexual Wissenschaft. Again, he did tons of research, helping people with getting the proper hormones that they needed, getting people these cures, doing all these implantations for them, working with Hirschfeld to figure out how gender worked so that they could better help people to be in the gender they wanted in, again, the 30s, 20s, 40s, like 100 years ago.
Yeah, so long ago.
And all of it was burnt by the Nazis. But we're going to talk about that later.
Yeah.
In summary, I thought he was a crank, but he was just a little cranky. But he was just a brilliant man that loved balls. For Occultae Veritatis, I've been Arthur. Joining in my own testosi.
Sid Murray.
Oud Gallifrey.
Richard Bigley.
Ugly horse.
Phrasing.
Thank you so much for joining me, and may your gender journey be as smooth as possible.
Bye.